Okay, so I recently watched this movie, The Tomorrow War, and I'm not exactly sure what to think of it. I'm like looking at the movie right now, and it's an interesting movie to say the least. And also to say that there's been quite a divisive response is also kind of an understatement, I guess. Well, that's at least an understatement itself, because there seems to be a lot of people that love it, some people that hate it, some people in the middle. I'm kind of geared towards the middle. Now, when I initially watched this, I really liked this, but upon a bit of a reflection, there are some kind of bad parts, and I'm gonna say it's kind of a maybe like a 3 or 3.5 out of 5. And I guess I'll start with what I didn't like first, I guess, because that's less, it's still a bunch, but still. So at the end, yes, I'm going like straight to the end of this movie. They basically figure out that these aliens have been here before 2048 because that's when they initially thought they got there. They've been here like a while, ever since this like volcanic eruption that calls back to an earlier kind of like character, so that was kind of good, but still. In this, so they managed to stop them from ever existing, which technically should make this entire movie non-existent if you think about it. Like, then there wouldn't have been a war for these people to go back in time and bring these people back too. So I feel like what maybe it kind of makes the timeline not really make sense, um, and just kind of confusing. Honestly, it's like it kind of messes with logic quite a bit, and that kind of annoys me. So what I think could have worked is that maybe ever since these people came, they've been trying to get people to an alternate reality of Earth in this present time to maybe like so that they can prepare. And this would be an alternate reality where the aliens are there, like they recreated like somehow. I mean, I don't know. You could give some explanation, and maybe like they're working on it, but like the main character Dan is like able to provide some info to help make this go into fruition, which can make his character, actually important to the story, not just like there while everyone else is doing something smart. And they could transfer everyone to that reality so that it wouldn't mess with time, and so that they'd actually initially in that second reality maybe like go and kill these aliens before ever existing. And they could transport people there. Like they could transport like most of the people there, and you can have like this whole thing where like time is running out and stuff like that. I mean, maybe they won't exactly work. You'd have to maybe suspend your disbelief a bit about it. But I don't know. It's a possible idea that could work with some retooling, and I think something like that wouldn't have made all the timeline stuff not make sense because it still would have happened. We're just in an alternate reality where we're all gonna live. Like maybe it's an alternate reality where like no humans are there. It's just all the stuff that we've created to this point, and then we're managed to like make them go there. I don't know. In some way, it could work with some retooling, and it'd at least offer an explanation that wouldn't be like, oh yeah, realistically, none of this would have happened because they killed the aliens before, so he wouldn't have met up with Charlie and that dude that was supposed to die with cancer in like 6 months. All this stuff wouldn't have happened, and he still would have been like a normal guy, basically. Except, yes, he would have killed these aliens, I guess, although there wouldn't really be much evidence of besides a few people, like two other people, one of which ran from the government. So honestly, yeah, I don't think that'd really work. But yeah, that whole ending doesn't really make sense. And there's this whole thing before that where they want to hatch like this expedition to go there, and for some reason, no one is allowing them to even do like this small scale, like covert operation with just a few people, because I guess no one would really believe it. It sounds crazy, despite the fact that like he was still part of this whole jump thing, and like I mean, it's confusing. So they don't believe that, but they believe these people who came from like this portal, who told them of a war happening that they're losing, and there's no, and pretty much forever, and at least up until that point, there was no photographic evidence of any of the aliens there because no one would have actually gone, which they say. So you can believe that, which sounds like even more of a stretch and just a possibility for them to like wipe out mankind. Like that could just be aliens impersonating us to get rid of us, like to slowly kill us all in this war, which actually might have been a slightly interesting twist. But they believe that, but not the fact that the aliens might have been here for a while, for a lot longer, and than we thought, and there could be a way to kill them. I don't know. I just find it kind of unbelievable. Like, really, that's the one thing you don't believe? That seems actually more believable than these people coming from a portal, which, for all you know, could just be some staged event, or again, just could be aliens impersonating us. You never know. I mean, if aliens exist, I mean, it's possible that they could impersonate us, but still, it's just really you don't believe that. All right. Some other stuff is that so it's told that the weak spots of these white spikes, which by the way look fucking awesome, are the throat and the abdomen. And the thing is, there's so many shots and times in the movie where people could have easily just gone under the multiple white spikes and shot them in the throat and abdomen, making the situation less tense and getting less people killed. Because that initial um fight scene in like that apartment area, kind of like there were moments where you could have shot them under the throat or in the throat or in the abdomen and would have made it less tense. So that just kind of makes me lose. It kind of takes me out a bit. Like, okay, there's a multiple times where you could have actually shortened the population of the white spikes, at least there, and limit the amount of people being killed. So I mean, yeah, and there's this point where like one of them fell, and there's like these Air Force people like coming in to like bomb the place with all the white spikes, and it ended up getting two people killed because one person was injured, and Dan and the others had to go. Getting them killed, I was just thinking like there was like a commander there listening. She could have told the Air Force people to at least bomb a little farther away, or just wait and offer a bit of help or something like that. Or I don't know, at least try to bomb a bit so that they maybe run away from like fear or something like that. I don't know. I mean, from the fact that a bunch of them got killed. Um, I don't know. Maybe something like that. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that brief little cut. I just had to add more footage because I realized I'm talking for a while. But yeah, there could have been some times where they could have shortened the white spike population or killed some in that whole Air Force thing. That wasn't really huge problem, but still. There was like this random thing with a boat, like towards like the second act, I guess, that just randomly came out of nowhere. That was kind of random. Like, okay, that's weird. Um, and I would have liked a bit more of Charlie because he was actually kind of interesting and funny. It wasn't that annoying. I would have liked more of J.K. Simmons' character because he wasn't really in this movie that much. He was just in the beginning and like at the third act. I would have liked a little bit more, honestly. That would have been something interesting. Um, and I guess one thing is that I would have also liked to learn a little bit more about Edwin Hodges' character, because all we know is that he has a souvenir of like this white spike claw. I thought he had two. I guess maybe he did, but he's gonna die from cancer in like 6 months, and he was one of the sole survivors of like this jump to Russia. I don't know. He's done like multiple jumps and like redeployments, and he wants to die like his way, which is interesting. But I would have liked to learn maybe a little bit more because his character wasn't exactly super duper interesting. Like, yeah, it was mysterious, but after a while, I just realized it's not really gonna do too much with the character. It's not a huge flaw, but it's just kind of annoying. Like, okay, maybe you could have done a little bit something with this character. I don't know, or maybe just rewrite him to make him a little bit like more possibility of him being interesting. But let me get into stuff that I do like. So the action is actually really good. The CGI most of the time looks really good, and that first scene with the apartment is like pretty creepy, especially with the buildup of the white spikes, which are immediately basically shown in their full later, which is a bit lame. Maybe they could have just not completely shown them until later, like that initial like that attack around like 80-90 minutes in where like spoiler uh Dan meets like his daughter for a little bit and like she dies and he tells him to take like this vial mass producer so that these toxins can kill the creatures, which is an interesting idea. But yeah. So that apartment scene was pretty cool. That was pretty intense. These white spikes are actually a pretty good threat, and they're quite violent. Actually, this movie is actually pretty violent. They don't have too much blood, but they have a person being ripped apart by this creature, and there's some blood, and there's quite a bit of gore when like the creatures are melted, which is pretty gnarly. It's not like a super violent movie, but it can be violent at times, and sometimes it doesn't really show what's going on when the creatures kill people, but they're quite violent. They thrash around people violently. It's quite brutal and aggressive, and I like that. So that was pretty cool. There's a really fucked up aspect of the movie where you learn when you die, like the exact time, and it's kind of messed up knowing that you're gonna die within like 7 months or something like that, and it kind of messed with me, but like in a good way. And there's this whole thing about like Dan's character just kind of feeling unfulfilled, not really doing much, and that was kind of an interesting idea. Even if it's been explored, I think it's done well in this movie. Even if there are ideas that have already been explored, if you do it well and convincingly, I can let slide because there's not too many ideas that you can explore in movies, and there's been so many movies that they'd inevitably talk about them. So I think that's pretty good. And sorry for the brief cut. I just realized I've been talking a lot about this movie. I guess I had more to talk about than I thought. So yeah, that was kind of interesting. That whole thing with like him being unfulfilled. And well, yes, it's again an idea that's been explored a bit. it's still done convincingly, and I kind of feel bad for him. Like, he kind of lives this unfulfilling, uninteresting life. Beginning, you see he doesn't get this job, and so while it's not like super duper deep, you still feel bad for his character, and him seeing like his daughter later on, and when he learns that he died like years ago before this year, and how it's like for her seeing a ghost, it's kind of sad, and you feel bad for him. And I actually kind of teared up at this movie because while it's not an amazing movie, it does have some pretty good emotional moments that are done well and played straight. And this Chris Pratt isn't just like some goofball. Like, he's a bit goofy at times, but he mainly plays like a serious character that's kind of like uninterested in where he's going, and you feel bad for him. So it's kind of interesting to see him be pulled into action, and he's a pretty decent action hero. Not like a perfect one, but I think he's pretty good. He's believable. He's interesting. You can feel bad for his character. Uh, and I guess it's interesting to have like a character's daughter like see the father character years after they died in this timeline. It's kind of interesting. It creates for an interesting dynamic, and he learns a bit about how he died. And I thought that would have played a bit more into the story than it did. Um, but I guess that whole timeline thing at the end, where they kind of like erase it basically by killing all the white specks before they even exist, I guess maybe changed it. It's not explicitly said, but I'm going to assume that was a bit weird. But that whole thing is just a problem. But still, I like that aspect. Overall, the action is really good. The characters are entertaining. Um, it's got twists that you don't exactly expect. Um, it's got multiple twists. I still don't want to spoil it because there's a twist around every 30, 40 minutes, at least to me, or something interesting, different happening that kind of changes the whole thing up. And it's just an overall really entertaining movie that I think people can enjoy. It's not really that stupid. Like, yeah, there's some stupid stuff, but I honestly think it's not as bad as some people are saying. I usually don't agree with the notion that people tend to just hate everything and be critical of everything a lot, but I kind of agree a bit with this one. Because yes, there's some problems, but I think overall it's a good movie. There's not really any like particularly stupid lines that I remember. If anyone have any examples, sorry, if anyone has any examples, they can put it in the comments or something like that. But I don't remember really particularly any stupid lines. It's overall a really enjoyable movie that you should watch. And I'm glad I watched it. I didn't really have any high hopes, and maybe I liked it a bit more than I thought, kind of like with Alien Abduction. But I still think it's a good movie. It's got some problems, sure, but I still think it's really enjoyable. Got some cool moments and likable characters and some really good action. That whole random ship though, that was weird. But yeah, hope you enjoyed. See you guys when that Purge review hopefully comes out. There's some problems with that, but still. Hope you enjoyed. See you next time. Bye bye. And tell me your thoughts of this movie demo.